Amazing. Yeah, so the program is called Breathe. I always check in with the host because I value your effort, your energy, like everything you've done to create this brand for yourself. Would that be okay? I always ask out of, permission. Would it be okay for me to give your audience a gift or have them have a call to action to come to my program?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
And then we can
Thank you.
add it in the beginning, the middle, the end, so you
Whatever's
can
good for you.
sneak it
I
in
just want to
there.
play nice. I hate it when people come on my show and they're just like selling the whole time. They didn't even ask me.
Yeah,
It's like
I probably
you
won't
get
release it if you sell the whole time, to be honest.
exactly. No, but I mean like there's an artful, skillful way to have a conversation where you're not selling anything, you're just being yourself. And then at the end, you ask people, "Hey, if this resonates with you, go check out my program." I mean, it's that clean.
Yeah, beautiful. Um, can we jump into it?
Let's do it, man.
All right, cool. The one commonality across my entire podcast, Josh, is the first question I ask.
Yes.
And it kind of gives my audience an idea of where you're at in your life right now. So when you wake up in the morning, what is it that, like, literally right when you get out of bed, what is it that just sets you on fire for the day, sets your heart and pounding outside of your chest to get your day going? What is it right now?
Ooh, love it. What really lights me up is earning revenue from a place of heart-based inspired action, not to just make money, but to actually know that when I trade my breaths, my time on planet Earth, for building revenue from a loving, heart based place, I can then turn around and take that energy that I've earned and I can share it and I can deplete the hate in the world and I can bring more love to the world. And that's what lights me up the most.
I think we can just stop right there and give everybody that because that was power. That was so good.
Because
I
money's
never,
energy, it's been a big story for me, Justin, like to understand what money really is. And I feel like this year especially I've cracked the nut. We've all been through so much, in the world. And God, money really truly is energy. And I understand that on a intelligence level, but also somatically, both of them. They're both really important to get. I get what money is now. I understand.
well, I'll tell you what, this wasn't the direction I planned on, and that's why I love podcasting. So I want to roll with this. Where was your mindset around money previously?
Ooh, born to a mom with a manic bipolar disease. Dad left home when I was 2 months old. Raised on welfare, like kick cereal, no vegetables, government cheese. So from a very early age, I would say the first 15 years or more of my life, I was taught on a deeply subconscious level. And my epigenetic expression of money was people can't be trusted. Money causes pain and expect the worst to happen. I did a talk at a mastermind once, and those were my three honest points for so long that I struggle with. People can't be trusted, money causes pain, and expect the worst to happen. And if people are feeling that right now, then you probably have some of those beliefs that were literally encoded into your psyche from mom and dad. And this isn't about making mom and dad wrong. I want to send mom and dad everywhere love because they did the absolute best they could. They learned it from their parents, who learned it from their parents. So that was the initial branding that I got. Money causes pain. People can't be trusted. Expect the worst to happen. And I spent the core portion of my entire 30s. I'm 40 years old now. Unwinding, unlearning those beliefs that were legitimately. I'll say this. When a cattle gets branded, the hot poker.
Mm.
That's what happens to us when we're very young. Conception through 7, and then obviously 7 through 15 is very fundamental as well. So our belief systems are essentially coded like a computer by the time we're 7, and then they become even more rooted from 7 to 15. You can look at a lot of psychological studies about this and human behavior and behavior design. The reason why the world is the way it is because people have really fallen into the disbelief and fallen into the poor story that they're not loved, they're not supported, there's no such thing as God, and money causes pain. And that is what we all have to explore when we come from rough backgrounds where money is scarce and self actualization is scarce and thinking for yourself is scarce. The only antidote and the only solution for scarcity is to embody abundance. But you cannot read abundance in a book. You cannot even absorb abundance from one podcast. It's a amalgam and it's a journey to be able to get there. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes letting go and loving yourself and letting go of really all the BS that has been downloaded.
Mhm. You know, what you're saying is resonating so well with me. I had, for my listeners and for the listeners, I'm sure you can relate to a lot of what Josh is sharing right now. But myself, I would get like, I creating money or making money is seems to be not very difficult for me to do. Um, I don't know why, but I always lose it. Not now, but I did for a while, and I kept like beating myself up. Why is this happening? What the heck am I doing? What like, and I would just do stupid things with it. And I love that you said that because I'm living proof of what you're saying. I've had to unlearn almost like reverse, and I'm going to ask you what you did, but I meditated a
Yeah.
lot on this. I did a lot of meditations on like, and a lot of affirmations. I literally YouTube like money affirmations, and I did them day after day after day so I could reprogram
Yeah.
my, because I was like, I don't mean to do this. It's just happening. Like
Yes.
I would do a stupid investment. I would do, and I couldn't figure out why I was doing these things. And since I've done that, there's been a huge, I would say the last 6 to 12 months, there's been a huge shift in
Yeah.
in my relationship with money. And it's because of that hard work. I would love to know if there was other things you explored to help with that.
You know, like when the lights came on for me and I really started to understand why money was running from me, when the lights came on for me was, I think, really in the middle of COVID. I had reached over 3 million people with Wellness Force and our podcast. I had gone over the six-figure mark, blah, 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 all the traditional things that I think most entrepreneurs or most people, when they get there, they'd be like, I've made it. And when I got there, I was like, wow, not only does this resonate with me because every entrepreneur has always told this story, when you get to there, you're going to wonder why you stressed out about getting to there because you're going to get to the top of one mountain and you're going to see all the rest of them. And you're going to juxtapose where you are to where you now know you can be, your current self versus your future self, your lower self versus your higher self. And I'd like to actually take out the verses because it's not a fight. Because when the lights came on for me, it was about surrender and truly letting go, and not just letting go from a intellectual place, like letting go from a deep, loving place within myself where I didn't want to suffer anymore, where I didn't want to be in lack anymore. I didn't want to beat myself up anymore. The mental dialogue that happened for me for a long time, and I would say honestly, unfortunately for so many entrepreneurs, is they are driven by either a self hatred or a self sabotage or a fear of not being enough or a fear of not being successful. Alan Watts calls this the nature's vacuum. So in nature, there's the sodium potassium pump, there's the high low pressure, there's the chaos seeking order, there's the love and hate. Chinese medicine, there's the yin yang. So there's always opposing forces in duality. But of course, within duality, there's a singularity, and that singularity is love. But love can't exist without fear and vice versa. So where I had to come in myself was a place of reckoning where no matter what life brings me from now on, I love myself enough to not hate, belittle, or judge myself on the path towards becoming this greatest version. And it's like, I get emotional just talking to you about it right now because there was a few key things that brought me there. One of them obviously was a deep exploration into breath work. This is why we have our Breathe, Breath, and Wellness program. This is why I've been doing this art of breath for almost 4 years now. And then also a big part of it was doing my internal architecture of my mind, really starting to make terms with, okay, there's certain programs that I'm running that aren't serving me, that aren't serving my partner, that aren't serving my future family. They're actually, I had to come to a reckoning and a looking in the mirror
Yeah.
of the ways of being that I was showing up as in life that just weren't loving, either to myself or other people. And, it's interesting. I have a mentor, his name is Paul Check, and he was like, 2020 is the year of the mirror. It's where we all collectively look in the mirror and we see what we've become. And what I had become was someone who, hand over fist, wanted to be successful and was willing to, quote, do whatever it took to get there. And I had to look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm so sorry. I had to apologize to myself. I had to apologize to my friends, apologize to my wellness force community, apologize to my partner. And it deeply inspired me because I thought, okay, well, at least I'm coming from truth now. At least I'm coming from a place where there's been a full emotional inventory. I've actually taken the radical steps to be honest about how I'm showing up. I'm not showing up as a trusting, authentic, inspiring leader. How I'm showing up as is a pretending to be trusty, still authentic, but not necessarily inspiring. It's funny, the name of my business is called Wellness Force. And in Hawkins' work, right, in Power versus Force and in Letting Go, he talks about how actually power is the true fuel source and force is like a temporary means of moving one forward. And I think it's so ironic that the universe inspired me to have a business called Wellness Force when really force is a temporary means of fuel. Force is something that if you're surfing for a wave or if you're running up a hill, you might tap into your force. But power comes from a place of sustainable calmness. And so to tie a bow on your question, which is really nuanced actually, like to look in the mirror at ourselves like I did in 2020. And it's a promise that I will continue to give to myself, that promise of looking in the mirror every year. Some people call it like a life map or an inventory. I have an emotional inventory I do with my life and business clients. But man, it's if I'm not taking the inventory for myself and admitting like the real things, coming to loving terms with where I'm truly at in my life, my business, my health, my spirituality. If I'm not doing that, I can't be a trusting, authentic, inspiring leader. It's just there's a disconnect. So that's when money shifted. And that's when really a lot of things changed.
Wow. Right at the end of your sentence there, Zoom just like sent me like 30 warnings. So that's why I'm like, I don't, something just happened, but
Okay.
and so I was just thrown off for a second. Yeah, that, when you say that about looking in the mirror, I think a lot of people listening could take that and run with it because that's exactly what Josh is saying, what I had to do personally and say, I literally realized I was not doing enough for other people. And I think that I believed at the time that that was part of the reason why the money would come in, but it would leave so easily because I was not serving like I should have been out of true love. And I was really just being greedy. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, and it's sinister. Like I'm not a very deeply religious man,
yeah,
but I'm in complete awe and surrender of what God really is. This ever-present, omnipresent force that we can't even try to intellectualize, even if we wanted to, because it's outside of our sphere of consciousness, really.
sure.
So I totally hear what you're saying. Like there is an honoring to the mystery here, and part of that honoring is pausing and reflecting on how I'm showing up within the mystery.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to stop this topic and go right into what you talked about was breath
Yes.
because this is something that my plan was right away is to walk me through like a 3 to 5 minute breath
Sure,
exercise and
sure.
have everybody on this. We've never done this on my podcast before. We've done short meditations. We've done quick like resets. We've never
Yeah.
done a breath exercise. And I know the feelings you obviously do. You have clients that do. Tell us what like a 3 to 5 minute can do, and then let's go into it.
Yeah, I love it. It's rare that somebody asks me to do it though, so it's kind of a treat because it'll really screw us into the same floor together. Um, Essentially, what breath work is and what we're about to do is breath work is the only autonomic or automatic lever that we can pull for our nervous system. So within the CNS, the central nervous system, there's the autonomic nervous system, meaning automatic. In other words, you don't digest your own food. You don't beat your own heart. You don't have to be conscious, but we can be, about your own breath. So within that autonomic nervous system, there's all these things, Justin, that are happening without us having to do anything, right? They just occur for us. There's a double-edged sword for this. And the powerful thing that we're about to do, and really at the core of breath work, when you control your respiration consciously using your mind, then is Skype okay? I feel like Skype was cutting in and out there
It was for a second. I'm not
because
sure
I'm
what's going on with.
Ethernetted in. So I'm like, I don't, okay, we're
Yeah.
good. So when you conscious,
Go ahead. Sorry. Apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. So when you consciously control your respiration, you can consciously push out the things that aren't serving you from a stress perspective. And essentially, you can transcend your stress because you're controlling your breath. Breath is this gateway between contraction and expansion. So, whether you're like a spiritual person or a scientific person, when you're contracted, we all know that feeling when we're contracted. We're scared, we're in fear, we're not loving, we're kind of like, well, what do? We hold our breath. So there's a psychosomatic thing that happens on a biological level. When we hold our breath, we're actually constricting our creative capacity, our capacity to love, and our capacity to connect. Now, when we're consciously breathing, and I'll do a quick demo here, when you breathe in through your nose and when you breathe out through your mouth, watch me when I do it here if you're watching us on video. And if you're in the car, just practice this. Take both hands, put them on your belly. So both of your hands stacked on your belly. And when you breathe through your nose and out through your mouth these 3 times, this is going to set us up for our frame. I want you to visualize a balloon behind your belly button, expanding and contracting, and be mindful to keep your shoulders down. So as you do these 3 breaths, inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, keep your shoulders down and breathe through an imaginary balloon through your stomach. So inhale through your nose, watch the balloon come out, and exhale through your mouth. And you'll notice here my shoulders are not going up and down. So this is called horizontal breathing from Dr. Belisa Branich. Let's do 2 more of those. Inhale through your nose. Now, maybe already, this is the kind of breathing that we're going to do in our frame here. Maybe already you're already feeling somatically more relaxed. The key that I want everyone to focus on here, and we talk about this in the program, is to not vertically breathe. Don't vertically breathe, horizontally breathe. So if you were looking at a camera to my side, you'd see my belly go in and out, but my shoulders stay down. And I guess that's the really big part about this that we want to have be taken home. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 20 connected breaths with no pause whatsoever in a circle. And then we're going to do 1 full inhale through our nose on the 21st breath. And we're going to hold that for as long as we can. Now, just for sake of time, let's say we'll hold it for 30 seconds. When you exhale, I want you to think about or feel whatever is stressing you out the most in your life and let it go with an audible sound. Okay, so just to set the frame, we'll do 20 breaths just like we did. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. No pause at the top or bottom. On the 21st breath, we're going to inhale through the nose, hold it for 15 seconds, and then we're going to let it go. Okay?
If you want to hold it longer, just press pause on the podcast and see how long you
Exactly.
can
Just
hold it
keep
for.
holding it.
Yeah.
Okay. Get seated wherever you are or standing wherever you are. If you're in your car, pull over to the side of the road. I don't recommend people do breath work while driving. It's not exactly the safest thing. But go ahead and just clear your space. So close your eyes and just do a quick scan in your body for 10 seconds. And just roll your neck around a little bit. And just see how you're breathing right now. Just do a quick inventory. How are you breathing right now? Is your breath from your chest or is your breath from your belly? And just do a scan of your body. Just see if you have any tension anywhere. And as you do these 20 connected breaths, just let your eyelids droop closed and just be still wherever you are. And we're going to, on the count of 3, start inhaling through our nose and exhaling through our mouth. And I will guide everyone through it. So 1, 2, inhale through your nose. Halfway, doing great. Last 4, focus on your belly. Last one, big inhale through your nose. Hold for 15 seconds. Buzzing is okay. Everything is okay. Everything's welcome. And in 3 seconds, I want you to audibly exhale loudly through your mouth. Let all your stress go. Ah. Just relax at the bottom. Hold your breath on your full exhale. And in this space, if you want to pause right here, if you want to hold longer, you can. Otherwise, in 3 seconds, we're going to take a big, rich inhale through our nose. Open your eyes and just come back to reality. The reality that's the same with your eyes closed. It's the same reality that we can lovingly create with our eyes open. It's all the same thing.
I feel
And
reset.
our breath links us. Our breath links us there. So obviously, if you're coming back, if you're holding for a longer retention, and our breath hold retention is where we really get clear on like what is stressing us out, how much control do we have over things, and can we drop into our heart and our body instead of just living in the mind. It's the only thing that really allowed me to take my inventory. So you can go there whenever you want to. You know, those 20 connected breaths, we did an easier version. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. If you want to do a more intense version, you can just do mouth breathing. You can. That's pretty intense. I would recommend that people do that with some deeper training, but it's essentially up to you.
Wow. So I want to talk about the what I felt to bring some connectedness to people listening. I felt a very cooling sensation in my body just on those 20 breaths and some tingling. And I think
Yes.
that I don't know what that cooling sensation is, but I love it.
It's two things. The first is that you're getting a shunting of the blood to your internal organs. So because you're increasing respiration, there's greater blood flow to the lungs. There's greater blood flow to the vagus nerve, really. And the vagus nerve is the piece of our nervous system that's complementary that shifts us over to what's called the parasympathetic branch. And in the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic system, that's where we digest food. That's where we are resting. That's where we're digesting. So the tingling was a very light form of what is called hypoxia. And hypoxia is where you're lowering the blood alcohol, or sorry, the blood, not blood alcohol. That's for the driving test when you breathe into the thing. It's when you're lowering the oxygen level in your blood. And this increases nitric oxide. There's many health benefits to this, but essentially the tingling that you're feeling um, was the beginnings of that hypoxia, and that's healthy. Right? It's a healthy thing to do. We all experience exercise-induced hypoxia as we're sprinting up a hill. Hypoxia just means that you're increasing blood flow to the organs and you're doing so much inhale and exhale of carbon dioxide and oxygen that your body is being forced to transmit that carbon dioxide faster than it normally would, and so your blood oxygen level lowers. So there's many health benefits to that
Sure.
when it's done in a facilitated professional way. And then also too, it just feels good. You know, it makes you feel alive. It increases serotonin and dopamine, and
Right.
it increases your head to heart connection and your somatic connection. So there's a lot going on there when we do that.
Yeah. And then I'll tell you the other thing is like I know from meditation that breathing out, when I breathe out and try to hold my breath, I can't hold it that long. But right there, I felt like I could have gone for 3 minutes.
You brought up a great point. You know what? So many clients tell me they're like, I couldn't ever meditate, but now that I've actually learned how to do box breathing, and we didn't do box breathing, we did circular breathing. Now that I've learned how to do box breathing, I can actually sit still when I meditate.
Hmm.
A lot of people like they'll fidget and their minds racing. It's because they're flooded with it's called the default mode network. And I know that you have had a lot of people on your show that really speak to the aspects and the health benefits of meditation, and I'm fully on board because when we meditate, we turn down the signal of that default mode network, and that's obviously the PFC, the posterior cingulate, and then our amygdala with a few other systems. But those three systems in the brain, that's what's kind of like the cop siren, chasing and wondering if the shoe's going to drop, or it's essentially our default mode network is where negativity bias comes from. It's what's connected to an ancient system in the brain that really scans for threats at all times. So if you've had trauma in your life and if you have trouble meditating, or if you've had too much cups of coffee. There's many things that can make that default mode network race. Breath work turns down the volume of that. There's many PubMed studies that can correlate this as well. So that's the science of what's going on. But yeah, it just feels good. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
essentially,
Well, you said our negative bias. Use that statement in there. And
yes,
somebody yesterday, literally yesterday, you reminded me of this. I think it's a cool little nugget to share. They said that we naturally want to say no to things. When somebody asks you something, for some reason, we because that's that negative bias. I'm assuming, I guess, we naturally want to say no. Most people. So he said, when you ask somebody a question that you really want to, to see, ask them, would it be impossible if you could, and then finish the sentence, because
that's good.
he learned it from FBI agent.
I love that.
Would it be impossible if you could dot 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 dot? And it kind of puts people, no, it's not impossible. So like
I
I guess
love that. Would it be impossible for everyone with us to take 5 to 7 minutes a day to breathe life into your lungs and to reset your body? It's a great question.
Josh, it's a great question. And that was what's really interesting, is that was my next question. If this is so simple to do for 5 minutes,
Yes.
why aren't more people doing it?
That is so powerful. And bear with me because it's a split answer.
Okay.
There's one side of it where the analytical mind could answer. I don't have enough time. My kids are screaming. Fill in the blank. I mean, we could all list 45 reasons why we can't do it. But I'd like to go deeper because as so many people in the healing arts or the meditative arts or just the personal development arts would resonate with, it's not always what we're saying that's present. It's what story or program we're saying that's trying to hide something we're either not willing to look at or an aspect of loving ourselves that we're really not ready to face. Because at the end of the day, your stories and your programs about why you can't do something that you know is going to be loving for you, that you know is going to be really honoring the temple or honoring your life, what's the disconnect? The bridge between knowing and doing is your heart. It's the decision you've made to love yourself. And self-love ain't a light switch. If you've been through a hard life, many people that are driven to mindfulness have had their own struggles. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've talked about them on your show.
Yeah.
Life is not this perfect linear path. But the more trauma, capital T or lowercase t trauma we go through, the more it dictates how our nervous system responds to each present moment. So the last thing that anyone wants to hear is do an extra 5 to 7 minutes of self-love every day if they don't even know what self-love is, and if they don't even know how to access it, and if they don't even know that they're carrying shame or they're carrying unprocessed wounding from their parents. Most of the clients I see and most of the people that come into the program, they're coming in because they just want relief. They just want some peace. They just want to feel like at home in their body again. And they don't even know why they feel like that. It's because somatic intelligence is different than intellectual intelligence. Somatic intelligence is what Bessel van der Kolk or Bruce Lipton or Dispenza talk about. Not just them, but everyone. They all say it in their own unique way. Somatic intelligence is very different than intellectualizing your healing or intellectualizing your body. So it's a twofold answer. The reason why people don't do it is they create a story that there's not enough time, or rightfully so, maybe they're not being educated like they are now. Maybe they don't, maybe this is the first time somebody's learning about the power of breath, the physiological, the psychological power of breath. Maybe they just never have heard it, and that's okay too. No judgment
Oh,
on that
sure.
either.
There's yeah. I mean, I never knew about it until the last couple of years. You
Exactly.
know, so
Exactly. And Wim Hof ain't for everyone. Not everybody wants to go climb a mountain with their bare feet and like pound their chest in the snow. I get it. So we
have you met Wim Hof before? Have you seen like somebody that might have connected
I've
with him?
trained I trained with one of his key facilitators in
Okay.
Thailand for a month, but I haven't actually met him in person. Yeah. But really radical dude. And this is the one thing I'll plant a seed in everyone's garden right now. All you need is 3 weeks. I know we've heard from behavior specialists that it takes 66 days to change a habit and whatnot. But in my experience, and from literally like the thousands of people that have gone through the breath and wellness training, gosh, it doesn't take that long. You make a commitment to yourself for 3 weeks to do something, regardless of how you feel or how your mind tells you a story, it is my absolute promise to you that your life will change. It's not an anecdotal thing. I've seen it with my own eyes. I felt it in my own body.
Yeah, it's you saying that, creating my 21-day course currently for parents. I want to use that in there because
Yes,
20, like it's so hard to guarantee something, but if you truly sit down and do this or do that or do something that like that for 21 days, it's impossible not to have some sort of shift in a
right,
good way.
right.
Like it it's we can't it's hard to put guarantees on things, using that word
Sure.
is really, I don't know, I can't think
You know what
I'm
it
trying
is?
to.
It is a guarantee. It's a guarantee if you do the work. I will say that. If you actually sit and do the breathing, and if you actually do, it's 7 minutes, by the way. So in the program, the first week is you learn how to do it for 7 minutes. You
Okay.
do it for 7 minutes for a week, it makes you inspired to do it for the next week and the following week. And before you know it, it's like you eat breakfast, you brush your teeth, you give your daughter a hug, you do your breath work. I mean, it's that simple. It's because you've neurologically trained your brain, right? But really, you've allowed yourself to neurologically train your brain because you love yourself enough to do the breath. That's what it's about.
Do you have any family or
I
kids?
have
Sorry.
I have a son on the way.
Oh, cool,
I mean, I
man.
have
Yeah.
family. Yeah, I have a son.
No, you were just born
I,
in like the ether. You just showed up
yeah,
out of nowhere.
actually, a stork dropped me on the porch. Um, I have a son on the way. His name is Nova Morrow, and there's a unique story of his name. But anyways, he's coming in June, and then I've been with my partner Carrie for almost 2 years, and then I have a mother and a brother and a father, and those are their own unique relationships, you know. But we live out here in Austin, Texas, and so that's where I'm really planting roots right
Cool.
now, is in Austin, for a
Cool.
lot of different reasons.
I asked I asked because you said 7 minutes breath work. I feel like I could just sit down and do that with, kids or family in the area.
Oh, for sure.
Where the difference
Yeah,
is like it's very difficult to, do a 10-minute meditation practice when there's things happening around you. I feel like it'd be a little bit I feel like it would be more a little bit more possible to do it, the breath work, because it's active.
correct. Yeah, and
So I like
also
that.
we have people in our program that do it with their kids. I have a
Sure.
woman who she tagged me on Instagram, and she's doing the breath with her kids. Kids, it's a beautiful skill to teach children. Imagine if you could teach your child to do breath work instead of allowing their emotions to take them off into a dark realm. And I'm not saying, look, we have to give kids permission to feel everything. I never want to make a child not feel what they're feeling. We never want to demonize feelings. But I'll say this, like, imagine if you could do it with your kids. Imagine if you could do breath work with your kids and have that be a bonding thing for you, right? What was your question earlier?
Yeah, no, well,
Would it be impossible?
would
Would
it
it
be?
be impossible to do breath work with your kids for 7 minutes? No, Josh, it wouldn't be impossible.
No, it wouldn't. I think the number one takeaway as a parent, for that is actually doing it in front of them, and then they get curious about it.
Yes,
Because it's it's very difficult to tell children what to do, anything, let alone something different and outside of their their knowing of reality. So when they see
that's right.
you doing something constantly, they get
Yes.
curious. They want to sit down. They want to join you. They want to do it. So
Yeah.
highly recommend doing
Yeah.
that. Don't hide this kind of stuff from.
You're right on the money, man. Yeah. Kids don't do what you say. They do what you do,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So if you're eating Big Macs and all that, they're gonna want that too. If you're having healthy food, they're gonna be like, I want to do what dad's doing. You know.
Right. Right. If you're screaming all the time, they're gonna want to scream all the time. Parenting. It's fun. But we won't get into parenting. But man, so you said self love a bunch, and you said love,
Yes.
and I really like that topic because this podcast is about, if you have a strong foundation with your family, your core family, your wife, your kids, the rest of life is falls in place a little bit easier than it would normally if there's a lot of chaos inside the home.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to ourself, and I don't know if you can hear my kid screaming in the background right now, but
Yep.
um if you have that self-love, that foundation strong within you, then there's a lot of other things you can take on in life and handle. Um, what do you do you have a definition of self-love, or do you have many definitions of it?
I've never had someone ever ask me that. Um, it's a great question. It's an intellectual question, which is fantastic, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but the answer doesn't come from the mind. And really, what everyone, just to be present to this, you don't always breathe yourself, right? And the fact that you don't always breathe yourself, you're not digesting your own food, there's a lot of things going on in your body that you're not doing. So, how do you explain that? How do you explain that all these things are what they are? How do you explain why a bird flies? How do you explain why the sky is blue? How do you explain why an oak tree grows in your front lawn? You might be able to intellectualize why things are the way they are, but you can't answer how do you love yourself from the mind. You can only love yourself if you really know what that feels like. There's an experiential answer. And the experiential answer that I could give you that I've felt multiple times in life in plant medicine ceremonies, specifically with breath work. And also, as I'm sure I'll feel with the birth of my child, I mean, I can already feel it right now. Love is something that is an awareness of what you already are and always have been. But even to hear that love is an awareness of something that you are and always have been can be intellectualized. When you hear the words coming out of my voice box and from the water in my system through your ear into your processing center and down into the water in your body, that's where the term resonance comes from. When people say, does that resonate? Well, it literally on a cellular, on a neurological level, deep within your system, if something resonates, then you don't need your mind to tell you it resonates. You know in your body and you know in your heart that it resonates. So the answer, like the long answer to your short question, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful question. I'm not putting down your question. It's a powerful question. It's an intellectual question. And I think it's the wrong question to ask. I think the better question is, how can I experience the love that I am to the best of my ability without judgment? That is the most powerful definition
Hmm.
of the experience of love, of self love, of loving other people.
Just an entire state of being. Um,
Right. Love protects. So love ain't always sexy. Sometimes love is hard, right? You got to make really hard decisions. And you don't
that
know what that's like if you haven't been through it.
that's a like I really appreciate that answer from you. And the reason you were the lucky one to get that, well, because you mentioned it, so I'm like, I'm going to ask Josh. I didn't plan on asking this, but because you brought it up
Yeah.
several times, right before we got on this call, I was pondering in my mind, writing what what is self love? How can I articulate that in a 2 or 3 sentence message? And I was doing this self love day on this course, and I wanted to get your uh, thoughts on that. So thank you for sharing. I'm gonna re-listen to
You're
that and see
welcome.
if I can
Yeah.
pull anything out of there that was good. Because it is. You're right. It's. I now I'm curious what other people would say if I asked that question. Because that's okay. All right. Um, well, thank you again. So let's see. Where do we want to go from here, Josh?
Well, I mean, the part that I was feeling in your question is I know you're a meditation teacher, and you've had some success in business, in internet and marketing and all these things for you and I both. I don't know what your Enneagram is. I don't know anything about you in that way,
Seven.
but okay, you're a seven. So
Yeah.
a lot of people on this planet, I'm also a seven. A lot of people on this planet, they're ruled by the mind and they're an advocate for what their mind believes to be true and what they want to create in the world. Maybe in your, I don't know if you do human design, or if you're a manifesting generator or a generator, or have you done human design in any way?
I'm not familiar with that. No.
Okay, human design is fascinating. All these things are fascinating. Myers Briggs, all this stuff. You could layer them. You know what I think we should do? We should take every single personality test out there, layer them on top of each other, and then create one magic ultimate system that gives us an intellectual understanding of why we are the way we are. But I think where we can
Including
go,
Enneagram, right? Including all
including
that stuff,
Enneagram,
right? All
everything,
everything. Yeah.
like
I
layer it all on top of each other.
yeah.
And then at the end of the day, like go put it to practice. I guess that's the real like epoch of everything we've discussed today is, are you actually doing it? Like, are you actually doing the breath? Are you doing the meditation? Are you practicing the self love? Are you practicing being at peace with what is? Not from a cool social media meme creation perspective, but like, are you truly practicing? Case in point, right before we jumped on this podcast, I was having a conversation with my brother, right? And it was about money. And it was a very charged conversation. And I think you even heard like a sentence or two of it before,
Oh,
before we jumped on.
okay, can you hold that thought? Because
Yes.
I want to, because I did hear a sentence or two, and I wanted to say that I was hoping you wouldn't press mute, because I'm like, wow, whatever he's doing, he definitely is frustrated about something, but the way you were coming across was from like an empathetic standpoint. And I took that instantly from that sentence or two that I heard, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to keep listening. I want to see how he handles this, because this is going to be good stuff." And then you press
And then I
mute, so I
muted
didn't get to listen.
it.
So I wanted people to hear that, because
uh,
it was good. Okay. Sorry to interrupt your thought there. Go ahead.
yes. So, but what was the segment we were talking about right before that? What was I alluding to?
Oh, see, this is what happens when I interrupt. I'm
That's
sorry
okay.
for that, Josh.
It'll come back. It'll come back. I believe it was on the
So
path.
it was on
It
actually
was actually
working the
doing it.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So am I practicing being in loving awareness, being in love with myself and loving other people truly from an embodiment and also experiential way? Or am I just intellectualizing my love and my healing? This is a huge line of demarcation. And I'll tell you what, it is something that I see rampant in, I guess you could say, our industry. In our industry of self help, personal development, personal growth, truly like the way that I do almost everything is the way that I do almost everything. And I'll say a caveat to that because I think we've heard the way you do anything is the way you do everything. I don't agree. But I do agree that the way you do everything is a representation of your level of awareness, your level of consciousness, and your level of personal development in that key moment. That truly is the best that you can do. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. 100%. I would agree with that.
So if that's the truth and our level of consciousness changes in every single moment, especially if we're committed to growth, who you were an hour ago, you're more conscious now than you were an hour ago. And so am I. So the way you do almost everything is the way that you do almost everything because you're always changing in every moment. You're not the same and I'm not, this isn't an intellectual thing. This is like legit. I notice it. So I was talking to my brother and even in our conversation, I've been getting these hits from my body and I'm like, I really get to text him when we're done and let him know exactly from a heart-based place what I was trying to communicate. Because whenever we're in a trigger, it's just a space for us to learn from. It's a space for us to grow from. It's a space for us to heal from. Whenever we're in a trigger and a trigger takes our breath away, it's what makes us speak from our head and not our body. If I'm ever talking and I feel like I'm holding my breath or I feel like tension in my system, like in my stomach especially, or my solar plexus,
Yeah.
I know that it's my consciousness trying to give me fuel source to grow. I know that in an interaction with my brother, in an interaction with you, in an interaction with anyone, I know that there's a piece of consciousness coming through, showing me where I'm not free in my body, where I'm not free in my mind, because I'm committed to growth. And so this is the path I signed up for. And so that's really what this is all about. You can take those personality tests and stack them 6 ways to Sunday. But until you experientially practice loving yourself, practice taking emotional inventory, and practice doing the meditation or the breath work, you're never going to have that experiential expansion. You're going to stay more contracted. You're not going to expand.
So give me an example, any for yourself, Enneagram 7. What was one thing, I don't know when you took the test, but that you noticed
Gosh,
when you took it and then said,
years
man,
ago.
yeah. So you've been doing this, you've been getting yourself I don't know, I try to find the right word, because you don't fix
Sure, sure,
yourself.
sure.
You don't, you've been getting yourself right. You're not really righting any wrongs.
Yeah.
You've been self-developing for a while. Um, let's ask you recently with your spouse, right?
Hmm.
You if you're in any marriage within the last month or 2 months, you've had something where a conversation in your body, you felt something, and you had to, you know, deal with it. Is there an example you would like to share with us when that happened and how you dealt with it?
So she's been in Florida for a couple weeks. She's 23 weeks pregnant. And so one thing that happens in the female system during pregnancy is their brain is washed with 25% more estrogen. And so, and you know this because you have a family. So when it takes a lot more of my emotional presence to be able to tune into her and know exactly what she needs. And so I've noticed that during this time, it's funny that the phone went off and I was like emotional presence and that my text went off. So it's been more challenging on the phone to tune into her because I can tune into her better when we're in person because I can just trust my system and feel what she's feeling. And so for anyone that maybe your spouse or someone travels a lot, it's really important to practice asking your partner like, "Hey, I'm sensing something. I might be off base. I might be right. Can you tell me like, am I get ask permission? Can you give me a clue or am I on the right path in sensing this? And if so, if that's true, how can I support you?" Like those
Mm.
two questions are massive. So for my partner, she was dealing with something with her family, and I was like, what I'm sensing is this. I'm sensing that you're dealing with something with your family. Is that true? And if that's true, can I support you? I mean, just boom, like immediately, like the whole thing melted. There was tension before, the tension went down. Nonviolent communication is not just this intellectual thing. Like nonviolent communication is going, huh, I'm feeling something in my system that's contracting me, that's making me contract. Am I on the right am I on the right path, babe? Like, are you, baby, tell me, like, am I feeling something here that's correct or not correct? And if so, like, what can I do to make it better? I
This
mean,
is,
boom, right there.
yeah,
That's the best.
dude, for anybody, like anyone listening right now, that's probably the most valuable piece of information out of the million, out of the other dozens of value bombs that Josh has dropped today, because that what you just said right there, I had no idea. I just recently discovered this technique and
Yes.
thing to do within the last 30 days. And I did it. I'm so glad you brought this up. I did it yesterday. My wife, and
Yeah,
this
man.
even the simplest things, Josh. Like we were in the
Yes.
kitchen and a pan is missing. We have no idea where this pan went, right? She needs to use it to cook. And I can sense that she was thinking I put it somewhere. Like she come 100% guaranteed that
Oh,
she
yeah.
didn't screw it up and
Oh,
I
yeah.
put it somewhere. So I felt this lot of tension, right? Start to build within seconds. And I said, honey, I have this inclination inside of me that you think I was the one that put it somewhere. Am I right? And I'm like, and then I said, so, I can feel that like tension happening. She goes, yeah, I do feel that way. I go, I understand. I really don't think I did, but if I did, but the point is when I said that,
Yeah.
it just melted away
Hmm.
the stress that was about to start to happen. Like, I didn't do it. No, you're lost. I didn't
You
lose it. What
know,
do you?
you know what I bet you did unconscious? I bet you took a breath. I bet you went, baby. Isn't it interesting? This like the subtle cues. Oh my God. What you're sharing is so huge because um, we're using our breath without knowing it. So the more we know it, the better we can use it. I mean, can you imagine how many fights, Justin, would be completely leveled and melted if we could just go from our belly, not from our shoulder, and be like, hey, babe, you know, hey, babe, like, here's what I'm feeling. Is this true? And if so, like, can I help? Can I support? But you can't do it if you're like, hey, babe, like, I'm sensing something. You can't do that. If you're holding your breath and your shoulders are going up,
Right.
it's not physiologically possible.
That whole shoulders going up, is that because what is the reasons behind that? I've never heard that before.
It's a great question. So the diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle that sits right basically at the solar plexus or below, depending on people's organ structure. And when you inhale and exhale, the air has to go somewhere, right? So it's either going to go up or it's going to go out. And so with that contraction expansion of the diaphragm, if I can go out, then I'm actually pushing on the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve innervates on the back of the diaphragm. The vagus nerve is the thing that allows us to go into parasympathetic rest and digest. So if I'm breathing through my belly, I'm literally pushing on the vagus nerve, which runs up my spine onto the back of the cranium. There's 4 diaphragms, by the way, right? This is really powerful. This is what we go into in the program. Like people have to understand the the magic of breath isn't just for anxiety. The magic of breath is so that you can show up more loving. That's really the end of story on the breathing,
Mm,
because a lot of people go to breath work because they want to trip out, or they want to go on the top of a mountain, and I'm not here to shame that. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's cool too. But the real magic of breath is that it allows you to connect with your partner, allows you to connect with yourself. It also allows you to have catharsis and healing. There's three huge phases of breath work: catharsis, acute, and meditative. And in those phases, there's unique styles and application. But everybody can take a big inhale through their nose and a big exhale through their mouth, because they love themselves and they love their partner enough to be like, babe, I'm feeling something. Am I on base, or am I? That's
but
all we need. It is that
it's
simple, but it's not that easy.
right. I mean, look, I think I've made a mistake since that moment. You know what I mean? So I'm not, no one's perfect. We're all human, but dude, like you're right on point when we just want to love ourselves more, love others more, feel more love, take in more love.
Yeah.
It is just, and I, I can't express how much better I feel when I'm in that state. Uh, and then when I'm not, the tension and the tightness that occurs in different parts of the body, and then you just cultivating more love is such a good feeling. And any way we can do that through breath work, whatever, is powerful. So I think I'm going to, not I think, I know I'm going to, for the next 7 to 10 days, I'm going to incorporate a few minutes of breath work before I do my morning meditation that I get into every day, and see
Yes.
what that does, what kind of things I can learn or see about myself.
It's not going to do anything but expand. It'll just expand you.
Yeah, I love it. So if you could go back, Josh, and tell your 18-year-old self anything, and your 18-year-old self would listen,
Yeah.
what advice would you give him?
I would, first of all, I've done this in many therapeutic sessions. So I
Oh,
know
cool.
exactly. I would go back, I would close my eyes, I would go back, and I would, first of all, put my arm around him, and I would hold him for a second. And I would say, look, I know things really suck right now. I know that things are hard. But I promise you, the more you just let that be okay, the more you just express yourself, share your sadness, share your disappointments, share the love that you want, share the experiences that you want, the more you can tune in. I would say, hey, 18-year-old Josh, the more you can tune in to your heart and connecting your heart to your voice box, to your mind, create this cool loop between your heart, your voice, and your mind, and just come from that place in your life. And I promise you it'll get easier. I promise you it'll get easier if you just connect those three things, okay? And then I would ask him if he understood, and then I would go deeper. And that's the one thing I would say. And that's what we all need. All of us need to go back and repattern, reparent, reframe the things that have happened for us, not to us. It's not just spiritual soliloquy. I'm not like, you need to reframe everything so it happens differently. I'm like, no, go back and truly take an inventory and really be with yourself at that age, because it's what's driving subconsciously your behaviors and your unhealed wounds as an adult.
So can I ask you just like one or two more questions? Just want to honor your time. It's been about an hour. Uh, you brought up a point where it brings curiosity into my mind. It is important to heal those wounds. What about the things you do 2 years ago that you want to have that self compassion over and heal? Uh, is that not pointless, but is it? Should we go even deeper and farther back to keep looking and see where it all started? And that's the way to do it, or could you work your way back? Self compassion for this. Go back. That's. Have you ever thought about that or gone through
Wonderful.
that?
Yeah, I mean, this is the processes I take clients through. So
Okay.
it's beautiful. You start with the results at hand. So if you're happy with your results and you're happy with what's in front of you, well then there's no work to do. But if you're not happy with what's in front of you, your health, your wealth, your relationships, the way you feel in your body, it's one thing to have like $1 million in the bank, marriage, blah, 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 fill in the blank. But if you don't feel in your body good, and y'all know what I mean, if you don't feel good in your body, then that's how far you go back. The guidepost to how far you go back in your healing is a clear representation of the frame that's in front of you right now. Literally in every moment, every moment, every moment. Some people will need to go back maybe to their adolescence. Some people need to go back way deep to childhood. It just depends on whatever is currently present, because whatever's currently present is trying to come out. It's trying to come through. Whatever's coming is going. And I hate saying that phrase because it's like a very like kind of social media thing. Whatever's coming is going, but it's the truth. Or whatever's coming, you're mashing down. You're drinking it away. You're having sex to put it away. You're watching porn to put it
And it's just going
away.
to come back.
It's just going to come. It's going to come out sideways. That's why we are in the state we are in society. That's why the people in leadership are the people in leadership, because it's wounded children hurting other wounded children, and no one's taking a real inventory of what the hell is going on. Because first of all, people don't have the spiritual courage. And secondly, they don't have the spiritual know-how to go back there and actually do the healing. And I'm not saying you need to heal your inner child forever, but you definitely need to have a conversation with him or her, because they're screaming for your attention.
Interesting. Fascinating. That could be another hour long
That's another
conversation.
podcast.
Thank you, Josh, so much, man. I really appreciate your
Thank you.
presence. Appreciate a lot of everything coming from the heart. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, man.
Now, well, let's we want to if we want to work with you or anybody wants to figure out more, tell us where to go and how to.
Thank you for letting me be here, the space you create. It was really cool. We hadn't met each other before we did this podcast. So it's been cool. You ask really wonderful questions, and you have a great space that you hold in your show. And then with that respect, with that awareness, if anyone wants to engage in this breath and get to know me and get to know what I'm doing with Wellness Force Media and everything, just go to breathwork.io. And at breathwork.io, because you're here with us in this conversation and this podcast, and you're like wanting to do the work. I mean, if you're following Justin, you obviously want to do the work. So breathwork.io is where you can get the Breathe program, and you just enter the code podcast50 and you get half off the program. It's already a super inexpensive program, but I made it very, very applicable to everyone. So in 3 weeks, you will have that mastery. So it's my gift to you and your audience. And thank you for letting me be in this space with you. And you guys, if you're feeling the intuitive hit, like follow it, follow that hit.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks. I'm going to press stop.